Remember, we have always said that human beings are born free, but it is society that associates them with chains. This is a philosophical underpinning.
Yeah.
So when human beings are undergoing through these societal changes, they are always yearning and agitating and fighting for free will. And sometimes there is some tension with the second concept of responsibility, because when you want to do that which is good to you, that which is your passion, then the call of responsibility comes, which calls you to be aware of the impacts of that which is good to you. What does it do to the second person and also to yourself? Importantly, that when you're exercising freedom, responsibility calls you, is a certain teacher that calls you, wait, this thing that you're doing, what is its impact to you, to the society, or to the second person who is next to you?
That makes me think about accountability.
Yes.
That means where there is responsibility, there needs to be accountability, of course. But when you talk about freedom, let's use the common cliche that used to be there. My dress, my choice. When you're having freedom, does that mean you know your rights? And how far is too far?
This is a good question, because it's a very contemporary thought. Because when you say my dress, my choice, you want, and you remember the way we've defined freedom, we've used the word choice.
Yeah.
You want to exercise your choice. You want to exercise your personality, that in such a dress, it gives your personality, it gives your comfort. It defines the term beauty or presentability to you. That to your eyes, that is where presentability is, or comfort is. But then there is the call for responsibility, the others. We must then ensure that your dress is your choice, correct, but do you live in isolation? If you don't live in isolation, you must think about other people's freedoms. For instance, your parents. What is their construction, or what is their understanding of beauty, of decency, of choice? Such that when you wear a a long time it used to be mini skirt. Nowadays, I'm informed that has gone micro mini. It is still okay for you. It is your dress, your choice. But because you're not living in isolation, you must be able to exercise the freedom and responsibility of dressing. Your dress is your choice, but you're going to church. What is the responsibility? What does that gathering define as responsible dressing? So we must be very responsible and ask ourselves, what is the impact of what I'm just about to say, both in our leadership structure, both at church, at personal level, at all levels of society. We must have our boundaries, and our boundaries will be well informed by our information. You must be very cognizant what I'm about to say, what I'm about to do, what I'm about to fuel, what is its impact? What is the consequence of my actions? We must be people of responsibility. We must be a society, a nation, or families of responsibility.
It can be done. It will be done. Me and you only need to do our part.
Welcome, my viewers. Today, I'm inviting you into a discussion about freedom and responsibility, a timely discussion in a time where changes in the society are happening left, right, and center. How do we discuss, or how do we deal with the tensions between freedom and responsibility? Thank you and welcome.
My name is Hilda Lumati, your resident host at Milestone Sociologist. Welcome to another session of Ask, Speak, and Engage with the Sociologist. Dr. Nguria.
Asante sana. Yes.
Today we're talking about responsibility versus freedom. Like you always say, we need to start by explaining, understanding the concept. Maybe you can just start by telling us the difference between responsibility and freedom.
Let me begin by first admitting that the two concepts are as old as humanity in my own view. Why? Is because human beings are intrinsically beings that yearn for freedom and self-will, free will, or self-determination. And if I could just give a little history of it, you remember when Africans thought that they were not having their independence, they went into the fighting for freedom or independence, what was dubbed the call for self-determination, free will. And in this, I coined the definition of freedom. It is the ability for somebody to exercise their own choices, to own their own choices, to pursue their passions, to pursue what they feel is what they want, the latitude to be themselves. Remember, we have always said that human beings are born free, but it is society that associates them with chains. This is a philosophical underpinning.
Yeah.
So when human beings are undergoing through these societal changes, they are always yearning and agitating and fighting for free will. And sometimes there is some tension with the second concept of responsibility, because when you want to do that which is good to you, that which is your passion, then the call of responsibility comes, which calls you to be aware of the impacts of that which is good to you. What does it do to the second person and also to yourself? Importantly, that when you're exercising freedom, responsibility calls you, is a certain teacher that calls you, wait, this thing that you're doing, what is its impact to you, to the society, or to the second person who is next to you? So there is always an attention to balance, and this tension calls for the need to balance freedom and responsibility, that they must be exercised pair and pair, that you cannot have freedom without responsibility, because you end up becoming dangerous. Because if you think that what makes you feel good, for instance, you're a border driver, and what makes you feel good is to drive at 250 kilometers per hour, you end up being of risk to yourself and also hitting and knocking others. That whatever makes you think you're free and you're exercising your choices and responsibility is playing loud music, it becomes nuisance to somebody else. So a play between the two is very important. And every other day in contemporary, we are exercising these two. Failure to exercise, to balance the two, leads to breaking of laws or harming yourself. And conformity with this, I would say, gives room to actualization, gives room to what we may call egalitarian or just societies that are justified. Yeah.
That makes me think about accountability. Yes. That means where there is responsibility, there needs to be accountability, of course. But when you talk about freedom, let's use the common cliche that used to be there. My dress, my choice. When you're having freedom, does that mean you know your rights? And how far is too far?
This is a good question, because it's a very contemporary thought. Because when you say my dress, my choice, you want, and you remember the way we've defined freedom, we've used the word choice.
Yeah.
You want to exercise your choice. You want to exercise your personality, that in such a dress, it gives your personality, it gives your comfort. It defines the term beauty or presentability to you. That to your eyes, that is where presentability is, or comfort is. But then there is the call for responsibility, the others. We must then ensure that your dress is your choice, correct? But do you live in isolation? If you don't live in isolation, you must think about other people's freedoms. For instance, your parents. What is their construction, or what is their understanding of beauty, of decency, of choice? Such that when you wear a long time it used to be mini skirt. Nowadays, I'm informed that has gone micro mini. It is still okay for you. It is your dress, your choice. But because you're not living in isolation, you must be able to exercise the freedom and responsibility of dressing. What is the responsibility of dressing in your society? Because you remember, we've said responsibility goes further, not only yourself, but you and others. So when you're with the others, what is the responsibility there? For instance, your dress is your choice, but you're going to church. What is the responsibility? What does that gathering define as responsible dressing? You are going back home. You're going back home, and they are your parents, and they are your aunties, and they are your uncles. What is the responsibility there? for the others. Others include your grandmother, include your peers and everything. There could be even children who are modeling and imitating after you. What responsibility do you have? As you exercise your freedom, what responsibility do you have? Number two, we must go deeper into this and say sometimes when we are exercising responsibility, it makes us enjoy or not to enjoy. Why? For instance, if your dress code will bring you into problem at workplace, then you must exercise responsibility for you not to get into problem. If your dress code, and I'm not an advocate for it, leads you into other vices such as attempt rape and other things, or for instance negative labeling, allow me to call it negative labeling, because people will start associating you with wrong groups or wrong character traits. If it leads you to that, then you need to exercise responsibility over that choice for yourself and others. And in responsibility, there is also a key thing that we call impact. What is the impact of what you are doing? What are the outcomes of what you are doing? Thank you so much for this tab. What are the consequences of this? Yes, I really feel myself as Francis. I want to do my ears. It's perfectly in order. I'm not saying it's wrong. I want to have my head plaited. I want to today do anything that I want. But what is the impact of it to others? Remember, beyond me living as me, I am a father, I am a role model somewhere, I'm a teacher somewhere, I am a son somewhere. You have parents who have expectations for you. You have a society that has expectations for you. Or just imagine, and this is a wild imagination, somebody who is really respected in our society, for instance, maybe the president, if he feels that it is his freedom to plait his hair, and tomorrow he comes plaited, there are so many other impacts that will arise to it. There are so many other consequences that will germane to it, because he is not only himself, but he is the symbol of national unity. He goes on to represent the image of the country. Maybe people will think of this country negatively or positively, regardless of how it comes out. So sometimes within our society, and responsibility also grows with the much freedom you have. Remember, the president is the number one most free person. He cannot even be questioned with the law. But every act that he does has so many responsibility. While he may not be subject to so much condemnation of the law, everything that he says is law. So it calls him to have a lot of restraint. I imagine everything that he speaks is very well calculated. And that goes even to the society. If you're a husband, if you're a father, if you're a key leader somewhere, we must be people who exercise responsibility. And responsibility calls, I think it's an inner voice of restraint. I want to do this, but I must restrain myself from this because of A, B, C, and D. The consequences, the impact to me and others. Yes.
It's like we always say during the wedding day, I will forsake all other men and women. You see? So it's a responsibility that you have. Have choices, but you still say no to those.
Even by the fact of just saying I'm somebody's wife, is acceptance of responsibility. That I'm having a lot of, if I do this as somebody's wife, I have impact. Remember, when you are not married, maybe you are called you can use me as an example. When I was not married, I was only Francis. But after marriage, you become the husband of so and so. As you continue, it increases. You become the father of so and so. As you increase, it becomes the uncle of so and so. As it increases, you become even now the grandfather of so and so. And you are the village elder, and you are a light to so many people. You are a reflection of society. So responsibilities increases with increase in freedom. Because you used to think that now I am mature. Look at it this way. You used to think that when I am in high school, I have no freedom. But when you finish high school, you have freedom. But when you have that ID, when you hold your national ID, it is the biggest statement of responsibility. Because if you do anything against the law, you face the law yourself. Unaweza shikwa na polisi, you can be arrested, anything can happen to you. You now are responsible for your act. the impacts, the consequences, you must be a calculating person.
Wow.
You need even now to calculate and think. The more the freedom you get, the more responsibility and the more restraint you get. Yes.
That reminds me of this technique that says adulting is a scam. Like people want to go back to
Childhood. Becoming an adult is a scam. They realize.
so this, but
Yeah.
I think I'm not ready.
You realize that when you were a child, I think it was so good because you didn't have the responsibility to pay rent.
Yes.
You had your only responsibility was to play and come and eat. But now you need to know that where you used to sleep is paid. Where what you eat needs to be cooked, needs to be bought, needs to be prepared, and even those dishes needs to be washed.
Yeah.
Long time, it's your mother who used to tell you, kindly, Hilda, ensure that you wash the dishes. Now it is your responsibility. With freedom comes responsibility. And that is why we began by saying there is always a lot of tension where individuals are negotiating responsibility and freedom. Free will comes with a lot of responsibility.
Very true.
With a lot of responsibility, with a lot of checks and balances. There must be balance. You must be weighing this versus this. What is the impact? If I do this, what is the impact? What are the results? You can imagine when you are not married, you didn't have responsibility to anyone. But now you even are responsible for your child. Because when your child is playing and you do what is called my dress, my choice, and then the young boys will tell the other boys, that's your mother.
Yeah.
And you realize the boy does, immediately, probably no. And then the boy will start telling him, mother, I'm now old enough, please don't dress this way.
Yeah.
Responsibility is growing with us. So when we call for freedom, we must call for a lot of responsibility.
And there should be balance.
And there should be balance. Even at a national level, at a country's level, we have the freedom of speech. But we must be very responsible how we use it. We have the freedom of movement, but we must be very careful where we move and with who we move. We have the freedom of association. We must be very careful with who we associate and why we associate with them. We calculate, we go ahead now to question why, who, why, and what is the benefit.
Yeah.
So everywhere there is the freedom, there is responsibility. There is even a responsibility in the rights to life, the freedom for life. You just cannot wake up and cross the road the way you want.
Yeah.
You cannot, that's why we say, like for instance, you have the right to life, but you cannot take poison. Because poison will just kill you automatically. Even when you are taking alcohol, you have the freedom to take it because you are above the age of 18. It said, no, it shall not be sold for people above the age of 18. Why? The philosophy behind it, it means that you have the ability to exercise responsibility. Choices. They have consequences, we are told. Yes.
Let's talk about the value that comes with exercising that. Maybe we need to know that.
The value that comes with exercising a responsibility. I could say the value that comes with exercising the balance, finding a balance between your freedoms and responsibility. Number one would live a very free life. Is where you start living a free life. But a free life is also very expensive because it's a continuous bargain of this freedom. You don't exercise them once. These are choices we make on everyday basis.
Yeah.
So once you exercise this, you have no problem with others. For instance, you will not abuse others. You will not get into war. You will not take away people's property. You will keep your own freedom.
Yeah.
You will not covet, like it said in the Bible. You will keep your own freedom. And that is why the 10 Commandments tells us, thou shalt not, because it recognizes that you are free. God does not police us. God does not police us. He recognizes that we are free, but you have the right information to do it. Because that's why when you are a child, you undergo through several institutions to teach you.
Yeah.
When you are equipped, God knows that you know you have the right to do it. That's why he says, thou shalt not steal. God know that you know that is you have the freedom to do, the choice to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But once you steal, once you go against that law, you now invite the opposite.
Yeah.
So a failure to exercise this begets evil, begets problems, begets disaster, begets disorder, begets disharmony within a society, disharmony within a family, disharmony within a nation, disharmony within a society. Think about a family that has no exercise of freedom and responsibility. You abuse your wife the way you want, your husband beats you the way you want. You can see how chaotic that setting is. So failure to exercise this balance, trouble is the answer. So the benefits of exercising it is that you live in peace, you can live in harmony, you can create a small heaven for yourself. You will not go be at loggerheads with the authorities because you have a car that has the speedometer of up to 180, but in front of you is a signpost that says speed limit of 80. When you are a responsible citizen, you will do exactly as it says. You will not hit, you will not bump into people, you will not make noise for people, you will not cause chaos. But when you are irresponsible, because the opposite of being responsible is irresponsible, you will not be able to exercise this choice.
Yeah.
And you will end up by doing the wrong one. You are told do not speed over 80, you end up knocking people, you end up causing death, you end up causing nuisance, then you're taken to jail, you're fined, or you end up rotting in jail. And you end up injuring others. You yourself, you lose your freedom, you lose your independence, or you lose your freedoms to be out here. You are jailed, or you end up bringing chaos in your family because you killed people and you have to live with this stigma and conscience. So failure to exercise our freedoms begets so much problem. And all the rules that are there within the society are there to be exercised. But very responsible people live and enjoy their benefits. For instance, they are not to hurt us. Like they say, thou shalt not kill. I do not kill. I have no guilt conscience with anyone.
Yeah.
Do not steal. I walk freely within this land. I have no problem. But when you steal, you have to always be guilty and running and hiding, also trying to hide from yourself. You can even get yourself hiding from your own shadows because you're guilty and all that. So the balance of the two is the beauty of life.
So the balance, does it come with even knowing your boundaries?
Of course.
Talk about that. Understanding boundaries.
Solving the tension between freedom and responsibility comes with information, being informed. I think knowing your boundaries and where your freedoms begin and where they end is balanced by information. How well informed are you? How well knowledgeable are you? So we must try to be very knowledgeable about our freedoms and what are the consequences of our choices and what are the expectations of the society to us. Although there is a general belief that is hanging around in contemporary day that the society does not matter. And we all are in isolation, or our life is our life. Maisha ni yangu, we shughulika na yako, as they say. I still belong to the school of thought that believes that people have responsibilities in the society.
Yeah.
People have responsibilities in a country. People have responsibilities in their churches. People should be responsible of their own actions.
Yeah.
When you talk about boundaries, let me lead you to a more self-explanatory thing.
Yeah.
Even on the political scene, you see people being called to responsibility by their own utterances. Because when there are certain utterances that you can speak and they fuel animosity, they fuel tensions, they fuel ethnic tensions between people. So people must be able to, yes, you are a leader, but what are your boundaries? Where do your freedoms end? How do your rights end? Because you can exercise your freedom of speech to a certain level and ban a country. So we must be very responsible. Even in a family level, you must be very responsible for your freedoms of speech. If you go on abusing your children, probably you're cursing them. Probably you're placing some cover on them. So we must be very responsible and ask ourselves, what is the impact of what I'm just about to say, both in our leadership structure, both at church, at personal level, at all levels of society. We must have our boundaries, and our boundaries will be well informed by our information. You must be very cognizant what I'm about to say, what I'm about to do, what I'm about to fuel, what is its impact. What is the consequence of my actions? We must be people of responsibility. We must be a society, a nation, or families of responsibility. Yes.
We live in a world and a now generation that is called Gen Z. Na Gen Z, freedom nayo wanapenda sana.
Bisa.
They know their rights. And most of the time, inafika mahali you're like, you can't tell me otherwise. This is what I know. Talk about Gen Z and responsibility and freedom.
To this discussion, I would love to call them my younger brothers, because I believe now I'm of age and time to call them my younger brothers.
Yes.
Because I believe I'm even part of the millennials. I would love to call them not to give a cold or deaf ear to advice. I would love to recall them to the beauty of being told. Being told necessarily does not mean you don't know. It means that you are wise enough to realize that you can be informed. And it's not a problem to be that you don't know. It's very wise to realize that you don't know and you require information that will allow you make more profound choices.
Choices, right.
Just listen to your elders, listen to the leaders around you, listen to your parents, listen to your elder brothers and sisters, because probably they have seen it better. Or the old wisdom used to be that wise people learn from the mistakes of others, but fools learn from their own. Because it's very expensive when you're learning from your own mistakes. So when they are telling you, probably or perhaps they are talking from pots of wisdom, from nuggets of wisdom, they have seen the dangers of what you are doing, and they are calling you to book. Please take care of X and Y character. It will lead you not well. Please try to concentrate a little bit in your academics. You may say they are old school and they are old cliches. But remember, those who are old school have also a lot of wisdom. They have been there and they are here knowing the problems that are germane in this society. Probably they are advising you not to go into a hole and you're blindly walking into it. So I belong to the school of thought that calls for people to be advised. A society that talks to each other. Have a session with your elders. Talk to them. Ask questions. Let them give you their own point of view. And to my age mates and to my seniors at age, let us please talk to our younger people. Let us give them the information. Let us give them the pros and cons and allow them to make choices. Because you remember, if you are making choices without information, you're born to make wrong choices.
Yeah.
But if you're making choice from an informed point of view, you're born to make more better choices, what we may want to call informed decisions. So it is good for them to listen, and it's good for those who have the ability to talk, have the space to talk, to continuously speak to them. Because sometimes they are getting lost because of lack of information. Was it not said in the Bible of all? And remember, the Bible is written several years ago. So it says, my people perish because of lack of knowledge. So our Gen Z do not perish because of lack of knowledge, but rather succeed from the abundance of wisdom.
Yeah, wow. Succeed from the abundance of wisdom. Wow.
There is wisdom in that.
Yeah. And also, when we talk about Gen Zs, let's connect that to money.
Yes.
Hey, maneno ya pesa daktari. There is freedom in that. But again, I think sometimes we miss out on the responsibility part. Let's connect that to our today's discussion. Money.
I would say money is an agent of freedom.
Okay.
Because it gives you a bargaining power to those choices that you want, to exercising your wants and your needs and whatever makes you feel that I'm now in my A factor.
Yeah.
But there is need a lot to responsibility, because our young people sometimes are getting money at a very early age. But instead of the money making them more free, buying more freedom, it curtails their freedom. Because lack of exercising money responsibly will curtail your freedom. For instance, money will allow you buy a car. if you do not have the responsibility of choices, of, like I said earlier, driving well, being able to decide what to do with the car and why to do it that way, you will end up overdriving, and overdriving leads you to accidents. You may lose your life. You may lose everything that you really worked hard for. That then it will lead to something what was called by the old wisdom of all, that everything is vanity.
Yeah.
You work so hard to get it, and when you get it, it spoils you, it kills you. So let us always have the responsibility or the discipline of money.
Discipline of money.
This is another concept that must be spoken when you're talking about responsibility and freedom. Discipline. Only the disciplined ones are free. I want to believe that. Only the disciplined ones in life are free. If you are not disciplined in life, you are not free. You cannot exercise freedom. You cannot exercise your choices freely if you are not disciplined. And being disciplined entails knowing what is good and right.
Yeah.
What to be done at what time and what not to be done at what time. Remember, when you have discipline, you will overcome peer pressure. When you have discipline,
Wow.
your finances will be used in a more better way, will yield better results. When you have a car and you have discipline, you will know that you cannot drive at 180 kilometers per hour. When you have discipline, you will know that even if you take alcohol, you do not take the whole bar. You only take one bottle and you go home. When you have discipline, you go to a butchery, you will know you will not need to consume the whole cow. You will only need to consume a smaller one.
Yeah.
When you have discipline in your family, you will be able to address your wife and your husband in a respectable way. And when you move from lack of finance or financial instability, and maybe God blesses you with more money, you will go into more money with discipline. That whatever brought you together will keep you together because you have the discipline. And this money will not become the root of all evil.
Yeah.
Because it said it's the root of all evil, because money corrupts. But you cannot be corrupt if you're disciplined. You cannot be free. You cannot talk about freedom without discipline. Discipline is the mother's milk of freedom. So without discipline, there is no survival, there is no love, there is no life. And when there is no discipline, you cannot be responsible. How will you be responsible when you don't have discipline? You don't know what is good and right. You cannot exercise responsibility over others. And you remember when one has the moral ground to exercise restraint to himself because of others, this is a very high level of discipline.
Yeah.
This is a very high level of personification.
Yeah.
These are people of high value. And how do you know you have become a person of great interest? When you are able to restrain yourself, despite having the power to do it, you restrain yourself for the good of others. Yes, you have a car. Yes, you have a very good radio that can play very loud music, but you recognize that your neighbor has a child.
Yeah.
You restrain yourself and you live in peace with people. You restrain yourself from driving very fast, or what I call sometimes, although this is a contentious issue, our young people want, when they have cars, they put a lot of exhaust with a lot of noise, or motorbikes with a lot of noise. And probably you're passing through dispensaries or maternity halls or hospitals or game parks. You must be able to exercise your responsibilities. You must be able to be disciplined enough to ask yourself, why am I doing this? And this is a call that I may call to all our Kenyans and my fellow citizens. Let us be disciplined enough. Let us exercise our freedom. For instance, with the little advantage that I've got of traveling a little bit out of this continent, I can say that so many continents outside here take a lot of discipline and restraint in environmental protection. Let me ask you, who pollutes our Nairobi River?
We are the ones who
Pollute it. Pollutes our roads.
Yes.
Who blocks our drainage systems just outside our compounds? It is all of us. Why is Nairobi, the city under the sun, having garbage collection as a problem? Why can't we exercise restraint? Back in Europe, people still use polythene bags. But you see no polythene bag flying. Why? They call for responsibility. The disciplined people that you know that when I have a polythene bag, I dispose it here. You correct disposal. Discipline goes to the smallest elements of life. the smallest elements of life and choices. And the choices have consequences. We must never forget on this. It must be never lost on us that the more advanced we get in life, the more responsibilities we have. And the more money we get, the more influence and power we get, but the more restraint we need to use with ourselves. We must exercise this with a lot of discipline in ourselves.
You know, you can have freedom, but without discipline, will not be able to be responsible. So the discipline part is like a bridge.
It's like a bridge
for the two.
Yes.
And that was very powerful.
And I can say without fear of any contradiction, there can be no freedom without discipline. And there can be no freedom and responsibility without discipline. That these are pairless pairs. That they must work together. They are conjoined twins of life. And if you win this battle, even for our younger generation, you begin seeing the beauties of life.
Wow.
You begin living a free life. Not free by saying, I am free. You do not run away from authorities. You do not run away from your elders. You have no tension with them. You have no tension with yourself. You live a very good life. You have all what Maslow said. You will get physiological needs addressed, checked. You will get your esteem well. Because when you are free and you exercise correct choices, you are disciplined, you are very esteemed, you're proud of your choices.
Yeah.
You're proud of your choices. You're proud of what you do. And when you do exercise those, you belong. People will want to associate with you. You'll get belonging. And when you get belonging, you will finally actualize within that society. You will become a child that is actualized and loved by that society or loved by that nation. And as a nation, we can also actualize when we all become free, responsible, and disciplined.
Wow.
Yes.
Powerful. Thank you, Daktari, for the knowledge. Can be done.
It will always be done. We only need to do our part. Let us be responsible, let us be disciplined, and let us exercise our freedoms and choices, discipline and responsibility.
And they should subscribe for more.
Please ensure that you subscribe, because such discussions are only going to be part and parcel of your everyday life if you accept to just subscribe.
E.
Asante sana. Yes.